Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Zalud here with my partner, Mark Blubaugh. Mark's co-chair of our Transportation Logistics Practice Group at the Benish Law Firm.
And Eric is also co-chair of the Transportation Logistics Practice at the Benish Law Firm as well. And we've been working together for over 25 years, I think, in this industry now.
You know, we often introduce one another. Anyway, fraud is a consistent theme in the industry, pervasive, and in fact, at this TIA conference, there's probably 4 or 5 panels devoted to various penumbrae of fraud in the industry. Mark, there's always new traps, right? What are some, are you seeing some new methodologies by fraudsters in your practice?
Yes, the scoundrels, the fraudsters, they're getting ever more creative. There's always a new trick or trap that they're trying to set for the unwary. You have to stay on your toes as a result. One thing that I've seen a lot of over the last year really relates to the fraudsters masquerading as a customer. They obtain the customer's information and then send information regarding a wire transfer, for instance, to a broker, or they masquerade as the broker and they send the instructions to the customer, which is the more frequent scenario that we're seeing. So, you know, essentially the bad guy is tricking your customer, if you're a broker, into wiring the money to them instead of paying you. And it's a situation that has burned a number of brokers over the last year because they haven't been vigilant or their customer hasn't been vigilant at the end of the day. And this is a real reminder how important it is to have good communication with your customers to ensure that they are not randomly or lightly changing the location to which they may be sending wire transfers to pay you. And they're not getting in the hands of the fraudsters who are probably in South America or somewhere overseas, and you're never going to be able to recover that money absent some insurance policy that you might have in place or some potential liability of some other financial intermediary. So.
It's an unfortunate phenomenon because you have in these situations, as everyone knows, a couple parties who really are not at fault. The carrier, the broker, the shipper, and courts often try to allocate fault in those situations, and it's too bad there have to be winners and losers when they're all victims. But yeah, another phenomenon we've always seen, but I'm seeing it more in court decisions these days, is very extensive efforts at fraudulent insurance coverage, policies, declaration pages, and even brokers with fairly rigorous policies on that get trapped and tricked in that. So you can't be too rigorous, but you also, I recognize that brokers got to operate, right? You know, so you can't interfere too much with operations.
Right.
One more trend I have just seen recently is the double brokering phenomenon, which is emblematic of fraud, is now being used by plaintiffs' casualty litigation attorneys to try to prove that the broker was somehow negligent in selecting the carrier, and that's a really new thing, and it's dangerous because it infuses high-risk personal injury litigation with the whole double brokering and fraud issue. One other question for you, Mark, because we're almost done. What are some practical tools to combat fraud? There's got to be some.
There's all sorts of things that companies can be doing, running from the kind of basic common sense point of ensuring clear communication with your customer, to my point earlier, because so often an imposter carrier is able to take advantage of the customer's lackadaisical attitude at the end of the day. They may not be, in fact, really monitoring what carrier is coming to pick up a load, even though you have hopefully given them information about that carrier's name, their MC number, and the need to police it. So that's one thing, clear communication, but also training your own team. You know, with respect to the kind of the cybercrime that I was alluding to earlier, it's really a fundamental practice that you need to be training your folks on a regular basis to be highly attuned to monitoring emails, for instance. Looking at those email addresses, are the characters that are in that email domain truly the email domain of your, whether it's a carrier or a customer, or is it coming from somebody else? Have they changed one letter in that email domain. That can be enough. Have they deleted Inc.? Have they added a LLC at the end? Is there a hyphen inserted? Because you may think that you're communicating with a trusted partner or a trusted customer, and in fact you're not. So just like we train our employees to watch out for the phishing scams and not to click on links and not to be too quick in judging where an email is coming from, it's really important to take the time to tell your team, despite the rapid pace of business in the freight brokerage industry, to take the time to scrutinize those communications and the email addresses when they come in. That would be one thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and we're wrapping up here, but I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are aware of this, but, you know, we can tell from our experience with our clients some of the red flags to look for: recently activated authority, a recent address, a lot of address changes, discrepancies in equipment, tractors, trailers, even too many affiliated companies, evidencing some kind of chameleon-type conduct. Small carriers that also operate as brokers under the same operating authority and incorporation. I mean, you're not going to solve everyone, but these are some of the indicia we're seeing. So why don't you wrap it up, Mark, and I'll have one last comment also.
Yeah, well, I enjoy talking about this topic regularly. We all recognize there's an epidemic of fraud that is ongoing right now that we're all learning to combat. And if you don't remember anything else, it's really clear communication with your customers, I think, can really help address some of that low-hanging fruit and chill some of the fraudsters from success in implementing their schemes.
I just heard him say that on the last panel. It's very good consult. And one last point by me to remember is good contracting. You know, it may not prevent the double brokering, but down the road, if there's litigation, it may not prevent the fraud, but it can improve your position in any subsequent litigation involving other innocent parties, really. So it's the era of transportation contracting, and they can help in many ways. Thanks, Mark.
Eric, thank you.